Another way in which life has become difficult for me, by the way, that's the question that I'm on. It's how has life been difficult since getting emancipated? So another thing that I wrote down is that I have to prioritize stability and security and give up the tendency to self-indulge. I had to sacrifice my social life in order to work steadily towards my goals. So I'll go ahead and unpack that. So one way in which things have become difficult for me since becoming an emancipated minor is the pressure to be responsible all the time, like to do the, not even just the right thing, but to be responsible no matter what. Like I said, I have to sacrifice the tendency or the desire to self-indulge, meaning like it doesn't matter that like I just want to like play my Sims 4 game and just like lounge. I cannot do that because the hours that I could play my Sims game for are hours that I could spend designing products so that I can hopefully generate money, like passive income in the near future, you know? I was unemployed for a really long time, an embarrassingly long time. And during that time, I was I probably was depressed. I'll just never claim it. But I was just in a prolonged depressive mood because it was hard for me. I've been working since I was 15, and to suddenly be like 22 or to be 23 and not have any stream of income, to not be able to provide for myself, that really hit me hard because I really do like to provide for myself. I like to make money because I like resources. I like to be able to have things that will improve my life. And of course, when you have bills to pay as well, you literally need money. So it was really difficult on my self-esteem. It was really difficult on my mind. But I could not indulge the desire to just lay down. Like I swear there were times where I got out of bed after 1 p.m. which was abnormal for me because I used to get up at 7 in the morning for work, you know. But I was like, what am I getting up for? For what? Like my everything is just so hard. There are all these obstacles. I'm not making any money. I don't like the way that I look. I don't like the way that I feel. And I just didn't feel or believe that there was a point anymore. Like to get up for what? Get up to be sad, get up to be uh, incapable, get up to just be reminded of how I'm struggling, get up to be immersed in how poor quality like my life and my relationship and my circumstances are. Like, no thanks. I'd rather just stay under the covers. But I could not indulge that feeling because I did not have a support system. So there is no if I fall in my that I guess that's what I'm getting to. You know, when people say like if I fall, who's gonna catch me? No, there is no falling. You don't get to fall. You don't get to fall because there is no one to catch you. There's no way for me to be the one falling and be the one catching myself. So you know what? That means I don't get to fall. And that's a lot of pressure to carry when you're young. That's so especially because when you're young, you are gonna make mistakes. You are gonna mess up. And I put so much pressure on myself to never mess up and to always do whatever I can. Like I said, I was unemployed for so long, and I was applying for jobs all the time. And then even when I was applying for jobs, I went back to school. The only reason I could go back to school is because I excelled academically all throughout school, grade school, and that was on purpose. I knew that was my only way to get into college, was to be so good that I qualified for scholarship. So I was a good writer and I was studious. You know, I tested well enough, and that's how I could go back to school. And even when I was in school, I'm still in school, but even when I was in school, I was also doing certificate courses. I am an ordained minister. I became an ordained minister for a job. I didn't get the job, but I still have the certificate. And then I also I attended this international English second language program in order to get my certificate. So I am literally an international, or not international, but I'm certified to teach English as a second language anywhere in this world. And I did that so that if something happens in this country and we all have to flee, I can go teach English and be paid more because I actually have like the license to do so, or like the certificate to do so. But I also did that for a job. I didn't end up getting the job, but I just thought this is a good thing to do. And I took more certificate courses and life coaching and business consulting. This was literally just for me to occupy my time, and to improve my resume, because I could not get a job, even though I have a pretty like good resume, like a well-rounded resume, but I could not get a job. I couldn't get a low-paying job. I couldn't get a job that I was overqualified for or underqualified for. It was, you know, really hard on my self-esteem. But like I said, I couldn't just lay there under the covers and cry. So I cried for a while, cried in the shower, cried at night, but I made sure that I spent those long days, those like 18-hour days or 20-hour days even, just always doing whatever I could, teaching myself skills and researching and teaching myself about passive income. I literally taught myself graphic design in 2022, and I started designing notebooks for sale because I was just looking for, well, one, I developed a passion for graphic design. Actually, like, I really have so much fun with it, but it was also because I was just trying to like dig myself out of this financial hole without compromising myself, because I have to be able to look myself in the mirror. I have to make sure that I like myself. I'm not going to go run to OnlyFans and be a prostitute, you know, a whore, because I can't tell my daughter not to be a whore. I can't tell my son don't date whores. I can't, if especially in this day of technology, like there's no way I would be able to hide something like that. And then just morally, like I just don't believe that I could just tell my child, if I had one, not to do the same exact things that I know that I did. Like, children, it's true, children do not care what you say. Children mirror what you do. So even now, like the decisions that I make now, it's because I know if I found the courage or the desire really to become a parent, the decisions I make now will affect my child in the long run. So even that is stressful. Even that kind of pressure, even holding yourself to that kind of standard is difficult. Because like I said, usually when you're young, people make bad decisions. Like, they allow themselves to do messed up things. But y'all know, I have not given myself permission to, like, you know, act a fool or be reckless and be irresponsible. I've never given myself that permission to. And it's hard. It's really challenging sometimes, but I just try to believe that I'm making the right decision and that things will get better for me, and that when it comes to like my morals and integrity and dignity, I cannot compromise those things, because then I will not like myself. And I actually do like myself. So yeah, just that pressure is really difficult to deal with. And I think part of it comes from being an emancipated minor and knowing that, um, you know, I'm on my own. I have to rely on myself. So I have to make good decisions. And then part of it is just my character. Part of it is just me. It's just standards that I have for myself. But that's one way in which things have become difficult, like dealing with that pressure to be responsible all the time, to make sure that I don't derail my life. Like, no matter how hard things get, no matter how low I have felt, no matter how prolonged or how long of a depressive mood or depressive state I've been in, I have to rise above it every single day. I have to force myself to feel happiness. And that's just by doing things that I enjoy, like songwriting, singing, and designing, and really just creating art, you know, creating art. But yes, that you have to, I wrote down that one of the things that I also have to do is sacrifice that like desire to self-indulge. Like I said, you have to, or I have to, like, no, I don't know, I don't want to say like disregard, but like dismiss those thoughts of, oh, I want this, I want that. Like, I can't even tell you the last time I went to a store and bought something for myself. Like, clothes for myself. I mean, I got a gift card from a church actually earlier this year and like last year from my school, but I had to buy um like household essentials that I was like really low on or lacking, and I had to buy pain relief, like over the counter stuff, because I've been suffering from chronic pain for the past year and a half. So every day I have that I'm dealing with. So yeah, that's not the same as like, you know, like going shopping. I don't know the last time I have gone. I don't know the last time I went to the store. I want to say maybe it was like before the pandemic, or maybe it was like when someone gave me a gift card for my birthday during the pandemic. But yeah, so basically, like I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you the last time I was like, "Oh, I want a candle, so I'm gonna buy this." Like, "Oh, I want this." It doesn't matter. You have to like learn how to dismiss those feelings and or dismiss those thoughts and not act on those desires, because I think I like wrote it down on a piece of paper. I don't know where it is, but like you have to let go of the desire to self-indulge for the short term in order to like maintain self-preservation for the long term. I don't know if that makes sense, but like make good decisions now and resist the urge to like self-indulge now so that you'll be able to self-indulge later when you're more stable, basically. um and it's all to work towards my goals. And I'm saying like, in order, if you have a desire to like live in a better place, like my first apartment, I was there for 5 years, and I'm pretty sure I got a lot of the medical issues I have from being in that place because the landlord exploited the fact that I just didn't have anyone, didn't have parental guidance, didn't have like a father figure or like a man with me that he would respect. I moved in with the help of my teenage friends because I was like freshly 20. So yeah, when it came to issues in the unit, he did not respond like proactively or at all sometimes, and that led to issues that affected me, and I just had to deal with it because I was unemployed for a portion of that time and I just didn't have any help. So yeah, lots of situations like that have shown me the not so great side to being an emancipated minor, or just being in this position where you have to fend for yourself when you're young, because people really do just take advantage of you. And that creates pressure to, for at least for me, it created so much pressure to like establish stability already. Like I have such a strong desire to just have like job security, income, a stable income, housing security, housing stability, whichever, because I've been in this situation where I've been in survival mode for like the past 10 years, and every place I've lived and every pretty much every month that passes is like I never know or feel like I'm really going to be okay. The obstacles keep arising and I feel like I'm like barely floating above the water, and it's so exhausting. Like I cry about it all the time, if I'm honest. Anywho, moving on before I start crying now. But another thing that I wrote down is that there is little room for me to make mistakes and bad decisions because I cannot afford the setbacks and consequences that come with doing so. It's kind of like what I was just saying. Like I can't make mistakes or bad decisions because there is a difference, you know? Um, I can't make those, I can't mess up because I literally cannot afford to mess up. I can't afford the setbacks. There are so many obstacles that just come with life, that come with adulting, that come with not having a foundation and not having enough resources to help yourself get out of a bad situation into a better one. So if you make bad decisions, like for example, if you know you need to work and you just go out with friends instead, well, and then you miss an opportunity to make that money, you're setting yourself back. I cannot afford to do that. So like I had to sacrifice my social life a long time ago when I was a teenager and just focus on stability. And it's sad because I still have not experienced that stability that I desire. But I wrote down that this is challenging and stress inducing because it is natural to mess up when you're young. And oh, so yes, this is what I was saying earlier. It's the challenge that comes with this feeling, or the thought that like you're not allowed to mess up, is the challenge is that it induces a lot of stress and pressure that over time is going to like break down your body if nothing else will. Like I think even part of the chronic pain that I deal with regularly is because I'm under so much stress, and it comes from like what I just explained, like the pressure and the desire really to have stability so that I can feel like somewhat normal, because I feel like my 20s are passing me by. Like I'm 25 and I'm like, where did the first 5 years just go? You know, and then my freaking birthday is in 2 weeks, and it's like, I don't know where time is going. I feel like part of it is that I was in a pandemic like in my early 20s, like 21, 22, 23. So that's where some of the time went. And then yeah, it's just I spend so much time like working. If I'm not working my a paid job, I'm working on my passion projects for a sense of fulfillment and to establish stability for myself. So it's just that's one thing that I would say is a downside. But I don't know that that's a downside to being an emancipated minor. Honestly, that may just be a downside to just being me and the circumstances that I was born into and that I'm trying to help myself grow from. Another thing that I wrote down is becoming emancipated forced me to take on a parental role, which stunted my natural progression from child to adolescent to young adult. And thus, or therefore, I struggle with feelings of inadequacy and I tend to feel abnormal. I also wrote down in parentheses, like I wrote down not being able to relate to other people my age. So I'll go ahead and unpack that. I really do feel like socially stunted more than anything. I don't think I'm like emotionally stunted. I think I'm pretty like self-aware and in tune with how I feel. Um, but I do feel kind of stunted. I feel stunted because I kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but like I feel like at some point, like I don't, sometimes it feels like I was never even a child just because my childhood was so short lived. Like I got to be a child from like age 5 to 7, and then I was transferred to my birth parents, and then like literally assigned younger children to um, care for. Like my youngest brother was an infant, or excuse me, like a newborn when I met him. And so yeah, I just like I don't know where my childhood went. It kind of feels like I didn't even have it. But I took on this, I became my own parent. And it kind of feels like, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe it's because I've just not articulated this before, but I don't know. It sometimes I feel inadequate as an adult. I don't feel like I'm like prepared for adult. I don't want to start crying, but this like really makes me sad. Sometimes I don't feel like a normal person. I really don't want to start crying. I cry about this like enough. And part of it is, I think part of it is that I just can't relate, or just don't feel like I relate to the people that I've been around or the people who are my age, because I feel like I've like lived the life of like a 45-year-old woman who's like a divorcee, who's like a single mom. Like I don't know. And then I think I have like anxiety or like feelings of insecurity because like I'm only like getting deeper and deeper into my young adulthood, and I don't have like much practice just being like, I don't want to say normal, but that's the only way I can describe it. Like when people are like, oh yeah, like I went to this festival, like, oh, I love going to, carnivals and stuff. Like, I don't know what that's like because I've spent the past like 6 years since I was 19, um, just working all the time. Like I said, I had 2 jobs at that age. People used to be like, girl, go home. Like, sorry, when you go home, why are you always here? Like, you must love it here. And it's like, no, I don't love it here. I'm living in my so-called friend's dad's house, and I need a better situation to be in because this man is exploiting me. Like, I've not been in a situation. I guess this is what it is. I feel like I don't know leisure. I don't know like leisure, and I don't know how to just like be in like a social setting with people and not feel like I'm supposed to be working and not feel like I'm supposed to be doing something. Like I rush through life. Like I'm like always rushing. I always feel like I have to be doing something. Like I cannot sit still. I don't have like the feeling of like I'm gonna be okay. And I just want to feel like I'm gonna be okay. Or like I am okay. And sometimes, like when my birthday comes around, or just when I'm like triggered by something, I'm like, where is the time going? And why does it feel like the time is passing, but I'm standing still in the same place with the same problems and the same stress? And the only thing that's changing is my ability to believe that things are gonna get better. I'm gonna just move on. Um, Another thing that I wrote down, is that people sometimes pass judgment on me. I wrote down that people sometimes pass judgment on me for my decision to sever ties from my family without understanding why. And that makes it hard to share my experiences with when meeting others. And it makes it hard to know what to share and when. So that's one of the ways in which things have become more difficult since becoming emancipated. I've had, it's awkward sometimes, like when you show up to gatherings and people are like, when I hate, like, not hate, but like, I really don't like the get to know you questions. I really don't like to talk about myself. I don't like to, like, when I'm getting to know people, like, I keep up on like current events and stuff, come across a lot of articles and stuff. So I prefer to just talk about what's going on in the world. I prefer to just talk about anything but me because I don't really want to turn the conversation heavy. And I just, I think that things, not I think, I know like people tend to want to know more. Like if they ask me one question, like, oh, where are you from? Like, then it leads to all these other questions, and somehow, some way, me being a foster child and going through this tumultuous upbringing becomes a topic of conversation. And I just like I try to like avoid that as best as I can, especially because I've had experiences where people that I've been around will like say they have said things to me. Like people in my ex's family, for example, have said things to me like, you don't talk to your parents, like you don't even know if your parents are okay, you don't even know if they need anything, like you don't try to call them. And it's like people don't tend to ask me like, what happened to you that was so bad that you had to leave your circumstances? It's just like I would feel more comfortable and less attacked if the conversation started off like that, like what happened to you, instead of like, why aren't you there for your parents? Like, why don't you ask me? Why aren't they there for me? You know? So I've had, just a few like moments like that where honestly it hurts my feelings, because I don't think that or it has hurt my feelings because it feels like judgment. It feels like the person is like condemning me for putting myself first. And again, they do this without even asking me about my circumstances or trying to understand what exactly I had to walk away from. And then like people, like I've also just seen how people treat you differently. Like when you're vulnerable, when you express how you're hurting and you're struggling, like people act differently. I remember, and for this reason, I've like kept a lot of things to myself. I remember like my during my senior year of high school, for the final senior year project, we had to do like a TED talk, but it was like an abbreviated TED talk. So I think they're called Ignite Talks, or like the 5-minute version. Um, and so you had to pick a cause, and you had to give, I think, like five. So you had to pick a cause, and I think to like, give five solutions like to fix the problem that your presentation is supposed to be about. So I did mine about foster care, of course, and I was super quiet in that class, didn't really talk to anyone. The class was super cliquey. Most of the kids knew each other, lived on the same side of the town, and most of the kids were the same skin complexion, and they just kind of like stayed with one another. And there were just like three of us in that class who were like this complexion. And so it was just, a typical AP class where you just kind of like by yourself for the most part. So anywho, I gave my presentation at the end of the class. I was the last person to go, and I announced to the class that I was a foster child from Miami, and none of them knew that, of course. And so I did my TED talk, I did my presentation, and I did a really good job on it, if I do say so myself. I made it through the whole thing without breaking down crying, which was really great. And then a couple of days later, I think it was like the end of the school year. So I was passing by teachers' classrooms, and I went to say goodbye to a few teachers. I passed by my AP Psych teacher's class, and I was like, bye, and he was like, hey, like, come here. And I went over to his door, and he was like, so that TED talk that you did. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, how come you didn't tell me all this time that you were a foster child? Like he said, you sat in my classroom for an entire year, and you just didn't think to share that. And I was like, no, actually, because I don't want people to pity me. I don't want people to treat me differently. And he was like, well, why would anyone pity you? Like, and I said, well, I just didn't want people to feel bad for me. He said, would you ever consider that maybe like some people wouldn't feel bad for you? They would actually like resonate with you and connect with your story, maybe be able to like build a relationship with you, or just like all this other stuff. And I told him, no, I didn't really consider that. Um, but I appreciate that moment. I'm glad that like all these years later, I do remember that fondly, because I think he was just trying to offer a different perspective that is worth considering. Like I tend to be a bit guarded because of my own like trust issues and stuff, but he did consider that, or he did make me consider like a different way of thinking about things. It's just from my experience, like people, like I said, people just act different. Like, one of the things that comes to mind as I talk about this, it reminds me of like when I was a junior and a senior in high school. I believe it was senior year when, so I think I shared this earlier, or in another video, but I used to be on my school's slam poetry team for junior and senior year. And my poems were like pretty personal, pretty deep. And oftentimes, or pretty much every time I performed, I broke down crying on the stage. Like I was like visibly shaking, because I was like reliving these traumatic experiences, and there was just a lot of pain in my poems. I had gone like 17 years without talking about all this abuse and stuff that I had gone through. So I didn't even realize how much it impacted me until I was right there on the stage and like struggling to get through the performance because of how teary-eyed I was. And just uncomfortable. So anywho, I also performed at these open mic sessions that we had at our school. So I remember like one time I was like in the East Library, I believe it was, and I performed this poem. There was a lot of pain in the poem, a lot of hurt. So of course, as per usual, when I got off the stage, you know, I said thank you, and then I just bolted to the bathroom because all these hot tears were coming down my face, and I just didn't want people to see all of that. And so I remember like my teammates, they came, and they even like one of the guys, he even came into the bathroom, and I was like, no dude, like go because I don't want him to get in trouble. But he didn't care. He came and he gave me a huge hug, and they uplifted me and stuff. And then I remember this girl who, she didn't bully me, but she was like friends with other people who bullied me. So I just kind of like steered clear of a lot of those girls. And her and I had class together, but she didn't really talk to me or anything like that. Like, even she was like standoffish towards me in the beginning of the school year. Not because I did anything, but oftentimes like I just never mind. I'm not even gonna get into it. But she was just like a little bit different towards me. Than like she was towards other girls and other people like who sat around me. And it's nothing that I did. That was just like a reoccurring theme for me for whatever reason, when it came to like a particular type of person. So anywho, but funny enough, after I got off this stage, I remember that I remember I was like walking in the hallway, and she just like came over to me, and she put her arm around me, and all these kids, like she was like, I guess you could say like more popular, definitely like more so than me. But so she had like a group of people who were like walking behind her and stuff like that. So when she came and she put her arm around me, other people were like walking behind her and stuff, and she was just like in the hallway like so loud. She was like, hey, like this is my girl Star, like nobody better touch her, like nobody better bother her. If you bother her, you're gonna go through me, you're gonna have to hear from me. And it was one of those things that felt so cool and humbling, but then at the same time, it made me so sad because I'm like, why did it take until my senior year of high school? And why did it take for me to get on stage and talk about my mom beating me until I've urinated on myself? Why did it take for me to talk about being abused sexually, physically, verbally, and emotionally? Why did it take for me to talk about struggling with severe anxiety and insecurities and growing up in a household where we're riddled with poverty? Why did it take all of that for people to just be nice to me? Because it didn't take for me to know those things about other people for me to just offer them basic, genuine respect. But for whatever reason, it took for me to pour my heart out on the stage for people to just leave me alone or to just offer me kindness. And that's what makes me feel so sad, and that's what makes me like struggle to connect with people and be so transparent with them, because like I said, I don't have to know that someone is struggling in order to offer them just basic respect. I think if anything, I would just assume you're going through things and for that reason deserve your respect, if not for just the fact that you're a human being. But that was one of the things that I noticed with kids in school, that like the same, literally I have a line in one of my poems. The poem is in my collection. It's called Cinnamon Skin. In that poem, I say, never forgetting the girls who fed me insults like I could stomach them. Those same girls will smile in my face after I finish this poem. And that's exactly what happened. Those same girls who used to bully me, stand by while the other girls bullied me, weaponize boys against me, just to make me like, just to let me know like nobody liked me, and everyone thinks I'm ugly or whatever, you know, just stupid stuff like that that kids do because of what they're shown at home. Like those same girls, once I got off stage, those same girls would be like, oh hi Sverolina, and it's like, it's just like people like that are disgusting to me. People like that are just despicable to me. But that's one of the reasons, that's one of the things that's been challenging for me ever since becoming an emancipated minor and becoming more like comfortable talking about my situation, like being more transparent. Like I'm actually still a bit guarded because I want to know that you're treating me the way you're treating me, because that's just how you feel about me. I don't want, I think it's weird that like people have to, or that people change their disposition towards you once they know that you're suffering too. It's like now that they don't think as highly of you as they may have before, now they can be a little bit kinder to, or they can be a little bit more empathetic to you. I just think that that's a shame, and that's one of the things that has just bothered me. But yeah, the judgment from people who don't understand the path that I have walked and how I've been like alone for the majority of this journey, and the switch up, like the two-facedness from people, that has been difficult. But I'm gonna move on because yeah, I'm just gonna move on from that. The next question is, how has being an emancipated minor affected you as an adult?